Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a process that is, quite literally, the financial backbone of almost every company out there. It's a system that takes the simple act of buying something and turns it into a smooth, controlled operation. And, for a lot of people, it's the perfect gateway to a fantastic career in finance. We are talking about Procure to Pay. So think about this for a second. How does a huge company buy, say, 100 new laptops and actually pay for them without it all descending into utter chaos? I mean, it sounds simple, right? But when you're making thousands of purchases every year, how on earth do you keep track of what was ordered, what showed up at the door, and who needs to get paid? More importantly, how do you stop mistakes or even fraud? Well, the answer is a really well-thought-out process. And that process is called Procure to Pay, or P2P for short. You can think of it as the complete story of a purchase, from beginning to end. It all starts the moment someone in the company says, "Hey, I need something," and it only ends when the supplier gets paid. It's what turns that potential chaos into a smooth, controlled, and efficient flow. So here's our game plan for today. We're going to start with what P2P is and why it matters. Then we'll walk through the 3 main steps of the process. And finally, we'll get to the exciting part, how you can actually build a career in this field. Okay, let's dive in. First up, what exactly is Procure to Pay? Well, think of it less as a bunch of rules and more as the powerful engine that keeps a business running smoothly. So why is this engine so crucial? Well, it's kind of like a domino effect. When you standardize how you buy things, you can automate parts of it. That automation cuts down on errors and gives you real control over spending. And when you have control, you can pay your suppliers on time, which makes them happy and builds great relationships. It all leads to the big prize, saving money and keeping the company's cash flow healthy. See, it's all connected. All right, so how does this whole thing kick off? Let's go back to our 100 laptops. The process doesn't just start with someone clicking buy. Nope, it starts way earlier with a simple need. This whole first part is really about getting the green light. First, someone fills out what's called a purchase requisition. It's just a formal way of saying, hey, we need these 100 laptops for a good reason. Then, a manager has to look it over and approve it to make sure it's a legit expense. Only after that approval does a purchase order, or PO, get created. The PO is the official document, the contract that tells the supplier, okay, we're serious, send us the goods. And that brings us to the real heart of the P2P cycle, the invoice. This is where a whole department you might have heard of, accounts payable or AP, gets to be the star of the show. Okay, so picture this. A big box of shiny new laptops arrives at the office, and along with it comes the bill from the supplier, the invoice. Now, you might think you just pay it, but no way. For the AP team, the real work is just getting started. This piece of paper has to be checked inside and out before a single penny leaves the company. An AP specialist is basically a financial detective. They're looking at that invoice and asking a ton of questions. Is this really from our supplier? Is the invoice number unique? Do the quantities and prices match what we agreed to? Is the tax calculated right? And the big one, does this invoice mention our original purchase order number? Every single detail has to be perfect. And that detective work leads to the single most important check in the whole process, the 3-way match. It's a cool name for a simple idea. The AP team takes 3 documents: the purchase order, which is what we asked for, the delivery note, which is what we actually got, and the invoice, which is what they're billing us for. If those 3 things don't line up perfectly, that's a huge red flag. This one step saves companies from making millions in overpayments and mistakes. It's absolutely crucial. Now, it's important to know there are 2 main flavors of invoices. You've got your PO invoices, like the one for our laptops. Those are pretty straightforward because the purchase was already approved way back at the start. But then you have non-PO invoices for things like the monthly electricity bill. There's no PO for that, so it has to go through its own special approval process from scratch every single time. Okay, so the invoice has passed all the tests, it's been checked, matched, and approved. We're in the home stretch. It's finally time to close the loop and actually pay the bill. So what happens is that verified invoice gets officially logged into the company's big accounting system, something like SAP or Visma. At that moment, it becomes a formal debt the company owes. From there, it gets put into what's called a payment run, which is basically just a queue of bills scheduled to be paid. Our laptop payment is now officially in line, ready to go out on the agreed-upon date. And getting this last part right is just so important. Paying your bills correctly and on time isn't just about finishing a transaction. It's about your company's reputation. It's about building trust with your suppliers so they want to keep working with you. And of course, it's about managing your cash so the business stays financially healthy. So, we've seen the whole process from A to Z. But let's shift gears and talk about you. Because this whole system isn't just about invoices and payments. It's a field that's absolutely packed with career opportunities, starting from your very first job and going all the way up to a senior finance role. One of the best things about working in P2P is how clear the career ladder is. You can see the progression right here. You'll likely start as a junior accountant, really learning the fundamentals. From there, you move up to become a specialist, then a senior, and before you know it, you could be a team leader or even a manager, running the whole show. And it's not just your job title that changes. Your responsibilities grow a ton. As a junior, you're on the front lines. You're processing invoices, you're supporting the team. But as a senior, you're thinking more strategically. You're analyzing accounts. You're handling the super important month-end closing, and you're even helping mentor the new junior accountants coming in. It's a real evolution. Okay, let's talk about the money. To give you a real-world idea, here's a look at the typical monthly salary range for a junior accountant in a major city like Poznan. This is just the starting line, of course. As you climb that ladder we just looked at, there's obviously a lot of potential for growth. So, if you're thinking, this sounds cool, how do I get started? This is what companies are looking for. Language skills are a big one, since you'll be dealing with suppliers from all over. You've got to be good with Excel, that's a given. Knowing a system like SAP gives you a huge advantage. But honestly, just as important are the soft skills. Having an eye for detail, being analytical, and just having a real hunger to learn and grow in the role. So as we wrap this up, if there's one thing I want you to take away, it's this. Procure to pay might sound like it's just about paperwork, but it is so much more than that. It is the financial engine that makes sure a company spends its money wisely, builds strong partnerships, and stays on solid ground. It's a field where your attention to detail has a massive impact, and it gives you a clear roadmap for your career. So the only real question left is, are you ready to become a part of that engine?